welcome to lecture number 5 in the first IHF Children's Handball Symposium. My name is Courtney Gahan. I'm part of the IHF media team and I am your moderator for today's lecture. For those joining us for the first time, I will briefly outline the translation options we have available. We have French, Spanish, and Arabic, and these are available only if you are joining us on Zoom. You can find them at the bottom of your screen by clicking the globe icon marked Interpretation and selecting the label for your language. If you are watching on Facebook right now, one of our team members is going to share the link to this Zoom in the comments so you can join us to use the translation options if you have a Zoom account. This first IHF Children's Handball Symposium is part of the Virtual Academy introduced by the IHF last year to facilitate global online learning and licensing. All of this falls under the umbrella of the IHF Education Centre, available at ihfeducation.ihf.info. This first IHF Children's Handball Symposium encompasses a total of 8 lectures presented by top children's handball experts from around the world. Today's lecture, Scoring the First Goal, is presented by Dr. Milan Petronijevic from Serbia. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the lecture, and we will have a question and answer section at the end. And please also note this is being recorded, so you will be able to access it later for on-demand viewing. So Milan, welcome, and we are ready when you are.
Thank you very much for your introduction. So just to share my screen with you. Can you just confirm, Courtney, please, that everything is fine?
Yes, looks fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear handball friends all over the world who are today with us, I have to admit that it's my great pleasure to be today with you and to be, of course, part of this first IHF Children's Handball Symposium. What would be my aim today during my topic and during my presentation is to give you the basic guidelines and to share with you my coaching philosophy, or probably more to be more specific about the certain methodological approach, which I warmly believe that is the most appropriate way how to approach to the beginners in our sport and how to make these first steps in order to score this first and very important goal. Before I start, we have Mr. Yahia Omar, who is today with you as our ambassador and who has some message to share with you. Let's listen to him.
The time they hosted Egypt back in 1999 was the first, and so much space to go through. Yahia Omar.
Hi, I'm Yahya Omar. I'm a player of Telecom Veszprém. I started playing handball when I was 6 years old. I played a lot of sports, but handball was the one I was most attracted to. I loved it because my father used to play and he made me love the game. My message to all the children that want to play handball is it's not a process of one day, but it's of every day. If you love it and if you're happy when you're playing, then keep playing and keep pushing every day till you reach. You never know where you can be.
And again, he's run out of options and an empty goal.
So, as you see, absolutely Omar is the top player nowadays, but I'm sure that the roots of his development are far away in the past. So what is very important to be aware is that there is a great responsibility of the coaches who are actually nowadays working with the kids. So actually future is in our hands. And what we are doing today, it will definitely determine the future of our sport. So I think that all of us should be very well aware of that fact. So what the coaches are usually bringing with themselves, it's a load of theoretical and practical knowledge they have in sports. And good coaches, they have the high competence in both, because the training process has to be well balanced, well organized, and well planned. And the level of expertise in all of them, it's very important for your personal success. So very often when the coaches, they are facing any kind of issues or their difficulties, very often the answers they are hidden in the theory of the sports. That's why this saying should remind you about that the best coaches are always aware on which shelf in their library answer may be found. So that is why I think we should always rely in theory of sports. So before you make any steps, every single coach should be prepared, only if you are probably not planning to fail. So I'm very sure that before that you make any first steps, you will have some doubts, many thoughts about how to start, how to set up your goals, how to communicate with your stakeholders and so on. That is why I think that good planning will be of great importance for your success. And do not forget that thinking and writing are very usually bounded together. So that's why I think this saying, think it and ink it, should always remind you about that. So before I start to talk about some practical issues of our training sessions, I will just rely a little bit on the theory. I will talk about methods and planning. And what are actually the methods? So methods are actually the rules of learning. And you know, there are a big number of different methods and different rules of learning. But today for this lecture, I will just mention two of them. First is rule of visual teaching. And the second one is the rule of step-by-step teaching. What is the rule of visual teaching? Actually, when you're working with the kids, you're actually, when we are learning them some technical elements, you are counting a lot on your demonstrations. So the kids are mostly learning by watching and repeating what you did in front of them. That's why we are very often insisting that this demonstration of the technical elements should be as realistic as possible. Because if during your presentation you are committing some technical failures or mistakes, there is a huge risk that the kids will repeat the same movement with the same mistakes. And if those mistakes, technical or the faults, are stabilized, you know very well then later on it's not so easy to overcome these mistakes and to come back to the right technique. So as the kids are younger, you rely more to the demonstration and less to addressing to them. As they are growing up and develop, you are more and more talking, giving, sharing with them information, and probably less and less demonstrating. Rule of step-by-step teaching is something that I'm sure you are using in every single training session. So you are relying actually on these famous didactic rules. So you are organizing your work by introducing first to the simple movements, and then you are making the exercises or the movements more and more complex. Then you start first with the easy exercises, and you are making them more and more difficult. And very often when you start training sessions in the beginning, you are just offering them the known or working on some known movements, and then you are easily little by little just introducing them to the new ones. And this is what we call in the theory of our sports, that the exercises are actually in certain methodological order, or very often you call it progression exercise or exercise progression. So when I'm speaking with my students and when we are offering them a certain set of the drills of exercises in order to introduce dribbling in handball with the kids, we are just placing them in this order. Absolutely every one of you and of them is actually free to make their own drills. But what is very important for you to know is to know where is the exact place of this exercise in this set of the exercises. So is your exercise more simple than the previous or more the complex? Is it the easier or the difficult one? And in order to have this progression line, in order to have the high level of efficiency in the motor learning, it's of the great importance. What about the methods of teaching? What we are actually using in our practice, it's analytic method, synthetic method, and the combined method. What is analytic method? Analytic method or analytic approach is when one certain movement, we split it into the phases, and then we learn phase by phase. without this analytic method, I think that we won't be able to learn kids how to swim, because first we are teaching them how to do the leg work, then how to work just with the hands, how to breathe, and then we are just connecting leg work with the breathing, leg work with the arm work, and then we have the whole technique. Opposite to that approach, we have the synthetic method. Synthetic method is when we are learning certain movement by implementing the whole movement from the beginning to the end. And this is something what I'm warmly recommending that we should implement in our training sessions, especially when we are working with kids. And I will show you later on through my examples what is my opinion about that. And the third one, what you are probably most in situation to implement, is the combined method. It's a combination of first two. So, for example, probably you want to teach your kids about the jump shot, and then you start by synthetic method to do the whole movement. But you, as an expert, you will probably notify that they are all committing some similar error in certain phase of their movement. Then you will interrupt. Then you will work just on this phase of movement, like bringing the hand in the shooting position and swinging, for example, with the lifting up the opposite knee. And after this kind of workout, then you will come back once again to the whole movement. And this is actually combined method. What is also very important when you are doing your planning, it is to plan your actually methodological advices or the key coaching points, who are mostly related to the individual tactical aspects of this technical element. For example, you can see on the right part of my screen the girl who is dribbling the ball. But if we put the opponent in front of her, and if she wants to change her direction, then we have to teach her that if she's running on her right side, then she should dribble the ball with the right hand in order to keep the ball away from the opponent, to protect the ball. It is individual tactics. So already on the very early stage of their development, like this small girl on the right side, we should learn the kids, or they should be used to answer those questions. When, why, where, and how. So for example, on the level of mini handball, if we ask them when you should shoot on the goal, they should be able to answer that they shouldn't shoot just after the first pass when they receive the ball from the goalkeeper. They should probably make some passes in order to approach the goal. So if we ask them, why do you shoot? So they should, is the defense overplayed, or they should be able to answer, is this a clear situation to score the goal? They should be also able to answer the question, how to shoot. Should we just break through in between the two players, or probably we should use the jump shot, or probably this situation is appropriate to use the running shoot. And also the famous question, where to shoot, And in order to make fun, we just say, okay, just miss the goalkeeper and score the goal. You should also be able to plan your working space in order to be as efficient as possible. What you see on the left side of my screen is that this organization probably is not really appropriate, because the activity of the player is on the very low level. So we have 2 players who are active and a big number of players who are quite inactive. You should be focused on it, especially when we are talking about the organization of the relay games, how to keep the appropriate level of activity. Opposite, on the right side, you should see the certain organization that should keep the high level of the organization by making different sports where all players would be active. Now I would like to give you some information concerning the forms of teaching, or what are the forms that we are using when we are organizing training sessions and our lessons with our youngsters in handball. On the first place, absolutely, these are the small-sided games, and I think that all the lecture before me talked a lot about this methodological approach. From the other side, we can use also the strict form of the drills, where we are implementing all these didactical principles that we are just putting the exercise in a certain order from the simple to the complex, from easy to the difficult, and from the known to the new ones. From the other side, we can also use the fragments of the handball game. So we can just train our players how to play in the attack, how to play in the defense, just how to organize the fast break, or we can just use one part of these phases that we are just training the collaboration in between two players in the defense or in the attack. From the other side, very important and powerful tool for their training sessions is also the handball game, and we should use it as well. So that's why the kids are coming to our training session, because they want to play handball. And the last one that I will mention on this slide, it's so-called tactical form of handball game. Probably the term is a little bit complicated, but I will give you an explanation. So what is the tactical form of the handball game? Imagine that in the main part of your training sessions, you are teaching your kids how to use, or you are just learning them the lateral ground shot over mouth shot. And then in the second phase of your training session, you would like to implement it through the game. And you can just give them information, okay, use it as much possible into the game. But probably they will use it or not, and it will be out of your control. But if you play regular handball and you define your own rules, like, okay, we will play handball, but who scores the goal from the ground shot, this goal will count too. Then they will be highly motivated in order to implement it. If you are just focusing on the fast pace of running and the fast break, you can also define your own rule that if the team scores the goal from the fast break, then they have additional set play in attack, and so on. And I think you are enough creative in order to define your own goals, in order to your own rules, in order to achieve your own goals of the particular training session. I mentioned small-sided games, and small-sided games are the main and probably the most effective training tool that you can use with the kids. And sharing fun and creating positive working atmosphere is one of the main goals. So obviously the children, they have the natural need to play, but what is very important in order to use the game as a training tool, it has to be free, it has to be spontaneous, and it has to be various, not patterned. And like this, it can be important condition for developing the creativity of your players. And I'm absolutely sure that everyone in future would like to have creative players. What unfortunately, when we were patterning our training sessions, we were unfortunately increasing their creativity, and then we were just making bad influence for the future of our players. So when I speak about the creativity, I will just give you an examples. What does it mean, creativity? But you know always that the painters, they know how to play with the colors. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do it. I can recognize every single color, but I don't know how to do it. So the poets, they are also able to play with the words, although I recognize every single word. And from the other side, if I look to the piano, I can just see the white and black keys, but I do not know how to play with I don't know how to play music, and the musicians, they see the music when they see the piano. So just briefly, I will give you some facts about the children's development, although I won't focus a lot, but you as a coach who is working with the kids and trying to make this very important step, you should be able to, you should know about it. So actually, you know that there are phases of the fast and the slow growth, and in between the kids, there are many, many individual differences, and you should be aware of that. So they do not grow at the same pace. There are also some gender differences, and very often the girls are entering fast into this fast growth phase. From the other side, you should be aware that there are different age categories. There is a calendar age. It is something that refers to our date of the birth, and we know exactly how certain kid is old. But from the other side, there is a biological age, which is very important, and it refers to the physiological development of the kids, but it also evaluates their sport potential and determines their possible training loads. So what does it mean? If we have two kids who are calendary of age of 10, it could be that one of them is early developer, it's developing faster. It could be biologically on the level of 12. And from the other side, another one could be a little bit slower in the development, so-called the late developers. And he could be probably on the biological age of 8. So biologically, the difference between them two is 4 years. So what is the big problem is that most of the programs, unfortunately, are based on the calendar age, what is a huge mistake. What you should be aware that at the age of in between 10 and 16, differences in biological development may be in between 3 and 5 years. What would be the more important information for you when you are working on the field? It's not this physiological and biological development. Probably for you, more valuable information would be what children can do in terms of handball at a certain age. What you could see in one of the booklets that has been produced by ourselves, by IHF, is that what, for example, the kids under age of 8 years can do in terms of handball. And you see that list is quite limited. They can do some ball handling, they can do some catching with success, they can do some throwing, they can play together, and they can shoot on the goal. As they are growing up and getting older, at the age of 10, you see that this list is getting larger. So they can even make some decisions 2 against 1. They can additionally make some tactically clever positioning, and they can probably take up 1 against 1 situation. They can also defend a certain area in defense, and they can even cooperate in defense. So I will just start speaking a little bit more specific about certain phases of the game, what kind of tools you can use. And my suggestion for today is that we can just use different tools. And today I will just present you a tool as a parachute that could be used with a certain efficiency in this phase. Why? Because it's a very amusing tool for kids. From the other side, you have really big variety of different games that you can use with the parachute. You can also achieve the high level of the activity. And from the other side, it can be used in different phases of the training session. It can be used in the warm-up phase. It can be used also in the main phase and in the end phase as well. And just see one example with this video that I will show you, and I'm sure that you will have more information about it. So we are just gathering around the parachute with the kids. What is very important to put it in the straight position. And then we just make some attempts of pumping it up. And here we used in this phase because we will focus on the elements in the attack. So it was also for us important that we warm up not only the whole body, but with the small accent on the upper part of the body. So we can use it also in the motion, lateral movements, involving hands as well. And also we can use some different interesting activities. Here we are walking around. Every one of us is just keeping or holding one field of the certain color. And then me as a coach, I'm just announcing a color and everyone has to start running and just till the position where is the field, next field of the same color. So when I announce blue, everyone who is keeping the blue has to run. This same game can be done not only while walking, it can be also done while running as well. So in this activity, I'm just splitting the players into two teams, equal teams, let's say. So everyone is getting his own number. So we started from 1 to 7, and then another group as well from 1 to 7. So we have two groups with the same numbers. So then we are lifting up the parachute. I'm announcing one of the numbers, and two players with the same number have to run under the parachute to change their own positions and to get on the opposite positions before that parachute gets down. Okay, and finally, the next one is more related to the handball. So you see one team is surrounding the parachute. We have a certain number of the balls in the parachute, and our task is to get rid of those balls. Yeah. From the other side, you have the yellow team who is surrounding the parachute, and they are running for those balls and also trying to fill up the parachute with the ball so it never gets empty. So this is a quite intensive activity, not only for those who are running, but also those who are working with the parachute as well. Okay, you have a really good choice of the exercises that you can use, and I'm sure that you can find a lot of them that can be useful also for you. So I will just pass to the next tool, which is also game related, and can be very efficiently used in your training sessions. And I'm very sure that you are using relay games as one of the main tools. I'm sure that there is a great variety of the relay games that you can invent by yourself, or you can just take from somewhere. And absolutely, it relies on your creativity. But what you should be aware, just to define and to design most appropriate relay games which are related to the goals of your training sessions. What is a great benefit of the relay games is that always kids are highly motivated to take part in them. And what is also important to know that they are using maximal efforts while they're executing them. So when you choose them, they have to be age appropriate. They had also to be appropriate to the handball skills of your players. And you should also always design them in order to be challenging, to develop some abilities. What is also the great importance, what I already mentioned in the previous slides, is that you have to make a good organization that you achieve a certain activity level. You can use during one training session different variations, but what is very important when you are placing them in certain order, that you are just following this exercise progression or these basic didactical rules that I have mentioned. Okay, in order to be more specific, I will just play certain number of these relay games that I make just an example, and you will see that the first ones were quite simple ones, and then they are getting more and more, let's say, complicated and more demanding for the kids. So we built it up the team, we made the space for the relay games, and if you see, we are just implementing dribbling. So the task for the kids was just to run and use dribbling to bounce the ball until the end point where they were touching the ground, getting back on the same way of movement. So what we could do as additional task, that in one direction they are using one hand and the other direction using another hand. This one, it's also an easy one, probably a little bit more dynamic, because in one direction the kids are running with the ball, and in other direction they are running without the ball. So this boy is leaving the ball in the end point. On the way back, he makes a high five, which is the signal for the next player to run for the ball, which he is bringing and handing over to the other player. So small demonstration, more activity for our players, because all of them are supposed to run twice. The first one is bringing balls to their endpoints, and the other one is bringing the balls back. Okay, this relay game is having certain phases. The first part is related, of course, to their coordination, but also to the technique of ball handling. So they're keeping one ball in their hands, yeah, and rolling another one. And then in the second part, they're just taking a bip from point 1 to point 2, and on the way back, as you see, they're still rolling the ball. So holding the ball in one hand, which is very important for future passing and shooting. And then the second one is bringing the bib from the second position to the first, dribbling the ball back, and then once again rolling the ball. What could be the problem here is if you are using the leather balls, that they can't be able to hold it in the one hand. So that's why you see this blue ball that they are using in the hand. It's a soft ball which fits to every single palm of the kids. So they can easily hold the ball and then do the other task with lots of success. Okay, we can make those relay games also a little bit more complex. So this is my first proposal. So the first part, they are walking over the bench, which is quite wide. It's not a big problem to keep the balance. They are also throwing the ball to themselves in order to have additionally balance and division. And then in the last part of this, they have this relay. They have to throw the ball and try to hit the cone. Sorry. What is very important, you will see later, is this white space behind this bench, so which increases their activity, because they have to run for this ball, which is somewhere reflected back. You will see on the second, yeah. This is what I mentioned. So we shouldn't place this bench next to the wall, because obviously the ball will reflect. So then if even it's more efficient if you have some nets behind, so the ball stays there, yeah. So it was the same actually relay, but just additional, they were making one additional turn. And what could be, of course, more demanding if this bench or the surface where they are walking should be or will be more narrow than this one was. You see, it's possible also to hit 2 coins at a time. And the third one, variation, is just that we changed the technique of how we were walking over the bench. And we were just rolling or circulating the ball in the hip level. And as I probably mentioned, you will see later on that even the surface where they are walking on could be or should be narrow in order to work on balance as well. Okay, when I spoke about the relay games, what we are doing in the beginning before we start, we are of course building up the teams, or we are dividing players into the teams or splitting the players into the teams, yeah? So What you are used to already is that we are making some quiz during our sessions and we are making some questions. So my question would be for you, who should be responsible for splitting kids into the teams for the relay games in order to give them equal opportunity to win the game? So is it the coach or the teacher who is always doing? Is it the responsibility only of the kids, so they are just defining the teams by themselves? Or should you use the combination of both, that sometimes the coaches are doing or sometimes our kids are doing? So on the end of the question of this session, we will discuss this topic. I have my personal opinion about it, yeah, but I will also to hear what is your opinion, and we will discuss it later. So who should be responsible for splitting kids into the teams? Is this the task of the coaches? Are the kids the ones who should do it? Or should be the combination of both? So I already spoke about the ball handling, and I think when we are working with the beginners, it's a very important technical aspect for the all elements in attack. Why? Because if we are doing it properly, of course, it will influence a lot our further technique of throwing or shooting. But if we are not handling the ball fine, then for sure there would be consequences on shooting and passing as well. So that is why it is of the great importance to learn the kids to do it on the proper way, yeah? And to make them able to hold the ball in one hand properly. So what I'm doing, I'm just demonstrating in front of them what is the proper technique. So the fingers has to be apart, the hand should be relaxed, and we are lifting the ball by keeping the ball with the fingers. And what is very important, what I'm showing you right now to them, is that this space in between palm and the ball should be smallest as possible. So if we are keeping, if the space is bigger like here, then we are keeping the ball just with the fingers, what will enable us to throw the ball on the short distances. But as in this position of the ball, it's influencing the small flexibility of our wrist, we won't be able to throw the ball on the bigger distances or the shoot properly. What I'm just showing now here on this picture is the palm of one of our players, and these are two parameters of the palm which are very, very important. One is the length of the palm, which is from the wrist to the top of the middle finger, and the other one dimension, which is very important, is from the top of the thumb till the top of the small finger. And this line should be as straight as possible. Here it's not really fully, but this palm looks like the one which fits to handball. Oops, sorry, it was my mistake. Let's come back to what this kit. That's it. And if you see, he is lifting the ball without it. On opposite side, you see this boy that this line is not really straight in between the thumb and the small finger, but anyhow, he doesn't have so many difficulties to lift up the ball. What will be more appropriate for the kids, probably because their palm dimension is not absolutely the same, is to use those soft balls because everybody can easily hold them. The same technique, but a little bit game approach, yeah? So we are just playing with each other's. Me as a coach, I'm just announcing one of the hands right of the left. They have the different starting initial position with the hands on the hips or probably hands behind their neck, yeah? And when I announce one of the hands, they have to be as faster as possible so we can play who will be the first, who will be the second, who will be the last, and so on. We have different positions. We can face the ball. We can also turn the back, or probably before just executing this drill, we can also make some motion like here in the picture that you can see. This is something that we can play, and it is on the like a so-called music chair. So we have one ball less on the ground, so they are moving differently. It can be a lateral move. They can run around the ball, and when they hear the whistle, they have to grab the ball as fast as possible, and the one who stays without the ball is out of the game. Okay, so now what I would like to show you, I mentioned different methods of teaching, analytic one, which is pretty much present in the training sessions systems of our kids. But from the opposite side is a synthetic one, yeah, that we are doing the whole movement in the whole motion, let's say, from the beginning to the start. But sometimes it's not possible, of course, just to demonstrate and to ask them to repeat on the same way. So what I will show you, what could be the role of the coach and how to facilitate this process, and what kind of assistance coach can give. And I will give you two examples. One is a lateral overarm ground shot, and the other one example is with the jump shot. So what I'm doing here, first I'm just demonstrating the right technique. What is the most important is my lateral position from the one side, you will see, and from the other side is position of my shooting arm, which is almost straight, and the ball is just laying on my palm. From the other side, I'm showing them the whole drill, and then we are doing it through the 3 steps. So I'm just handing over them the ball, and I'm the one who is bringing them actually into the right position. What they have to focus about is only to make step forward with the right leg. For the right handers, it's the left one in front, as you see, yeah. And then when I bring them to this correct position, then they're executing the shot. The second approach or the second step would be that they are without correction, they are doing by themselves. So I'm just handing over the ball, and then they have to think about putting the right leg into the right position and to prepare this shot, which they are obviously doing with the maximal efforts. And the third step could be that we are doing the same, but just I'm not handing over the ball, I'm just bouncing the ball, so they are preparing the shot by themselves. So this is, let's say, this 3-step approach. Okay, the same examples from the jump shot, but let's see a small experiment, yeah, what I did. So this is actually the group of the beginners that I just did a training session, and just in order to indicate what are their abilities, I was just asking them to execute the jump shot by, as you see, placing those hoops on the ground, and I was just asking them not to think about any steps. They were free to run, just to think how to place the right foot into the hoop and to jump and to execute the jump shot by themselves. And you saw it's a natural movement, they could do it. But if not, we can just get back to the drills. So I have the same approach, but what is the only difference? What you can see that when I'm offering the ball, I'm just putting the ball a little bit lower. So why to put the ball a little bit lower? In order to provoke them to be a little bit in the lower position in order to jump higher. And from the other side, on that way, they are just making a right movement of the shooting hand by making a swing backwards and then once again into the shooting direction. This is how we increase of course, the jump. The second step was the same by bouncing the ball, and the third step could be this one when we are handing the over by using the badge in order to prolong the jumping phase. Yeah. Also handing over the ball, and then the last version by bouncing the ball on the ground, and probably the next one could be with a double pass. Yeah. So, it's the time for the challenge from Mr. Yahia Omar that he would like to present you today.
Breakthrough, and suddenly the defence opened up.
I think that the aim of Yahia Omar was to just tell you that it's very important to have strong legs if you want to be good shooter and use the jump shot. Okay, what are the other games what are probably appropriate for the kids that you will work with when we are introducing elements in the attack? So one of them what I would like to introduce is the dodgeball, which is very spread around the United States in Anglo-Saxon world. This version, which is called All Against All, and what are the basic rules of this game? If you see on the left side the graph or the picture, so in one designed area we have the all players. They are all playing independently, all against all. And what is the main task of the player? The one who has the ball, his task is to throw the ball and try to hit one of the players. All the other players without the ball, their task is of course to avoid this ball and this movement we call dodging. Yeah. So let's get introduced by these rules. Yeah. So the rule number 1, if you get hit by the ball, what you will see, yeah, then you have to go out of the game. There is the second rule, yeah. So it's how to get back into the game. So when you get hit, of course that you have to go out, but those players who are out of the game and hit by you, they are coming back. So that's why the kids, they have to remember who was the one who hit them by the ball. Also very important rule is you shouldn't hit the face of your opponents. If, as we are using the soft ball, nothing will happen major, yeah? But if it happens, as here, is the player who was throwing the ball goes out, and unfortunately the player who got the ball into the face stays into the game. And this boy who is out is waiting that this player who got the ball into the face gets out in order to get back. And the next rule is when you are catching the ball, like on the video here, if you catch the ball, the one who was throwing is going out and the other one is staying. So this is the basic. We will see how it looks in reality. So what is very important when you design this area, that you limit the space. As the space is limited or more narrow, it's more dynamic, more interesting. Here we have the walls only on the 3 sides and on one side only the benches. So it's better when the ball is reflecting all the time. And if you see, it's quite dynamic. The kids are enjoying. There are a lot of changes when the players are going out and players are going in. And what happened to me by changing different variations, that you can really spend a lot of time by this game and keeping the interest of the kids for this game. What may happen like here, that you have a big number of players who are inactive and waiting, then you as a coach, you can just estimate it. You can just tell them to do some additional drills, like here they did the 10 squats, and then you can just get them all back, but it's up to you. You are designing, of course, this process. If I make some sound here, you will see that they are all the time cheering. They are also calling the names of the players who should be hit in order to come back. So it's very active game. So what we can do is that we can simultaneously play with two balls. So when we are playing with the two balls, it's even more dynamic. What is the also big benefit of this video that is those kids are doing this game or playing this game first time. So it's a really realistic situation. And little by little, you will see that they were positioning themselves because they realize that attention when they are playing with the two balls has to be much higher, and vision especially, because if we are just taking care of one ball, you can easily get the ball from your back. Me as a coach here, I was responsible to take care of that they have always two balls in the game, so I was just bringing the ball, and you see how many players were left in the really brief time. Okay, and the last variation that I will just show you here is the one that we call it with the protection shield, I call it. So I'm just teaching them how to make this protection shield. This is the same, let's say, taken from volleyball, how we are receiving the ball in volleyball, so-called technique of hammer, yeah? So that's how the kids can protect from the hitting from the ball. And if they just, like here, they play with a hammer, this hit doesn't count. So you see this kid on the right side, he's trying to protect himself, unfortunately without success, and then this game is ongoing. Also very dynamic version because the kids are trying to protect themselves. If they succeed to protect, then the ball is reflecting out of the control, which makes this version, let's say, more interesting or interesting. You can see this interesting situation with this girl that will be hit just in a few seconds. Obviously, she had a big number of victims during this game. You see how many players came back when she was out. Okay. Last but not least, I will just show you one magic tool that I'm sure that you can use every single day, and you can use it from the very first day with a big success. It can be also the big source of the happiness for your players, but also a reason for them to come back on every single training session with a great joy and a great enthusiasm. I'm sure that my colleagues spoke about mini handball, and I will just refer a little bit about this form of the game, which takes very important place to all the kids who join us first time when they start playing handball. So it is the form of handball which is actually adopted to their needs. So why we are playing mini handball? We are playing, of course, because the rules are very simple and it's easy to play. From the other side, it's very attractive, it's very dynamic game, and very often it's more dynamic and more attractive than big handball, and sometimes it causes problems when they are transferring to the big fields. From the other sides, it's very organized. It's very easy to organize in different facilities that you have probably in your schools, in your schoolyards, or the halls of different dimensions. So if you do not have full dimensions for the court 20 times 50 meters, it doesn't mean that you can't use it. From the other side, it's adopted form of handball for children. And all other team sports, they have a mini form, but unfortunately, they can't use it with a big success as we can do it. I don't know if you can imagine on the first day ever when the kids are coming to the volleyball, can they play really volleyball with a success as we can do it in handball? You can reduce your height of the net as much as possible. You can probably make a lighter ball that flies longer into the air, but I'm not sure if they can play it first day with a big success, or how dynamic it will be and how interesting it will be for them. You can also probably imagine about basketball. Probably they can play basketball, but with how many success on the first day? You can reduce the height of the hoop. You can probably use the smaller ball, but how many points during one game they can score? Very few one. That's why we should keep this in mind, and we should use mini handball for the very, very first day. So what is the main philosophy of mini handball? First is to give the children opportunity to play, to enjoy the game, and to feel success. Generally, we always first develop individual skills and basic handball skills. That is why we are playing man-to-man defense, and it is a must, because it's only way for their further individual development. And from the other side, we can always find the best direct opponent to our kids, depending on their individual abilities. What is also very important, by implementing mini handball, we are avoiding early specialization, which is a big threat for each modern sport, because the kids are just following the game and shooting from all sides of the field. We don't have this specialization through their positions of right wing, left wing, and so on. We also rotate them on the goal. Every single kid should try in mini handball to be the goalkeeper. It doesn't mean that tomorrow he will be the goalkeeper, but from the other side, this experience can help him when he will develop as a player. From the other side, it's absolutely sure that through the mini handball, we should have a positive pedagogical influence, and we should commit the fair play. And what is the most important, that the result of the game should not be important, because it's not considered as a success on this stage of development. It always reminds me to one survey, which is done by the American Society of Sports Psychologists. And one of the questions in this survey was, for the kids, of course, what do you prefer, being in the game, part of the game, although your team is losing, or you prefer staying on the bench and your team winning the game? And the most of the kids answered that they prefer participation. Just to give you a small example. This is the video which comes from one, for us in my country, very important project where we are implementing handball at school project. And we were implementing in several schools. And this video comes from one school that we barely had a very, very few lessons of mini handball. And we decided to give the opportunity to the kids to play mini handball immediately. So what we did, we said, okay, let's go to the school and let's give them opportunity to play. Let's organize the mini handball so-called tournament. Of course, the result was not important. So, as you see, they were able to play, they were able to enjoy, and they were able also to cooperate with the very limited handball experience. What you saw, probably this change on the goal, based on the fact you don't know how to do it, I know better. But sooner or later, this goalkeeper will receive the ball in his net as well. What is very important, what was our attitude? You see the referees, these are official referees, but what they are also used to in my country, doesn't matter if the referees or the coaches and teachers are officiated match, we should have a little bit flexible approach. So what does it mean? The kids, as you see, they are committing mistakes and technical failures, but it's not important in this step of their development. So if they make one step more, if they stand into the goalkeeping area, it's not so important. So the interruption of the game is quite limited. As you see, it's appropriate both to the boys and to the girls. Here we had separate boys and girls teams, but we can also organize it within the mixed teams where the boys and girls are playing together. So you see how they are cooperating, they are trying to pass the ball to find the best possible solution, and every single goal, it's a big joy for them. The man that you can see on the right side is the principal of the school, who is our coach, and it seems to me that he got inspired also by the game. He was not taking part in this project, but in this game, but somehow he asked for the team timeout, and I was really wondering, and I was really interested to see what will be the outcome of this timeout. And I hope that his instruction was not that this girl should get the ball into the face, but don't worry, we used the soft ball, so there were not major consequences. Okay. I have to say that with this part of my presentation, I'm done. I would like to come back to the quiz and to see what were the answers. Courtney, are you there?
Hello, I am here.
Did you get a sleep, or you were inspired?
I had a great nap. So we have the answers to this quiz. The majority of people, Ilona has worked out, it was more than 75% of people went for option C, and a small percentage of people said option A.
And as I saw, nobody gave this opportunity to the kids.
No.
So, okay. So what I will just try to discuss about this this organization, of course, as you answered that the coaches and teachers should do it, of course that we are doing, especially when we have to save our time. And from the other side, it's also very important because teachers and coaches, they know very well about the capabilities, abilities of the kids and what we are aiming through these relay games. But what you should bear in your mind as well is that the kids, even on the early level, on the level of mini handball, they know very well, how to evaluate their own position within the group and the position of the others within the group. So, for example, if you go to one class in the school and you enter into the class and you just ask the boys, tell me please, who is the best football player in your class? Probably they will say that the boy called Peter is the one. But if you give them opportunity to play football, you will actually see that Peter is really the best one. So what you can do, you can also give the opportunity to the kids to do it by themselves. And what I do, what is my opinion, like all the answers that we got, what is really my opinion, that we should use the combination of both. So I'm really glad what is the opinion of our participants, and it gives us hope that the level of expertise is really on good level, and that the future of our sport is in good hands. Can we hear if there are any questions?
Yes. So we have several questions. So let's start with a warm-up question. Somebody asked about all the activities you've shown. Is it just possible to vary these activities depending on the different ages, or would you use these activities for a big range of ages?
Yes, of course there is a great, if we are talking about the parachute, it is the great variety of the possible drills and the possible games that you can use. And I'm sure that you can find somewhere they are available in some literature and on internet sites as well. But all of the good number of them are quite simple, but they can get more and more complicated. And you can expose with this tool, we can expose the players to the different loads. So I'm sure that you can find just appropriate ways of using this tool for your own group.
This is related to another question, actually. Somebody asked if you have anywhere in particular that people can visit to see more exercises.
You mean for the parachute, yeah?
No, for all your exercises that you've shown, if you particularly have a place that people can get more from you.
Okay, I'm not the one who is placing those drills somewhere in the internet space. I prefer doing my seminars live, I have to admit, but probably it's a good message for me that I should take care of it as well, because I think that this, what I presented, it's really my personal approach, which is based, of course, on my theoretical knowledge and my practice that I'm doing on field. Yeah.
Okay, let's dive in. I have a more complicated question.
Yes, please.
Somebody asked about assessing the cognitive style from the children during the training, because they asked that they said that the analytic method suits field independent cognitive style children more, and synthetic method suits field dependent cognitive style children more. So how do you assess this in training?
Actually, okay, our let's say sports science is applied science, yeah. So all your knowledge that you are bringing theoretically or from the science, you have to be able to implementing on court, yeah. So when you place yourself into the hole in front of the players, this is where you have to show your abilities and all your knowledge, yeah. So are you going to use more analytic approach, or are you going to use more synthetic approach? Is absolutely your evaluation and your estimation which one of those approaches would give the better results. Why we are using more analytic? It's only in the situations when we are not able to use synthetic approach with a certain result. So that was with a certain success. So that's why my aim was to share my ideas today and to give you additional probably ideas. And I would be really happy if this was quite a good inspiration for you to build up your own opinion, how we can use this synthetic method in facilitated or in simplified conditions.
Okay, let's talk. There's several questions. I'm just deciding which order to go in. Okay, somebody asked, how do you make the result not as important? Because the children are always asking and who's winning and things like this.
I really like this question, and I can just tell me when the time is limited because I can make a long evaluation of it. First of all, you will have in the group of your kids those who are very, very eager about the result, and those are the kids that if I will a little bit lose control of the game, and I will probably speak to Courtney, and when I come back to the game, if I ask him what is the result, he will give me the right answer. Yeah. From the other side, there will be the kids that will play the handball with the same success, with the same passion, but when you ask them what is the result of the game, they will say, I don't know, but I don't care. Yeah. So it's up to you how you're gonna create it. But do not forget that they are kids with different abilities in certain level of their development. We have those who are in certain phases more successful and those who are not. And we have to involve all of them. So we have to give them opportunity to all of them to play. I have to admit that in my country, we have this kind of regulation when we say that all kids who are present on the game have to participate. In certain countries, they are also counting that those players who were playing the first half shouldn't play the second half. Yeah, but I have to admit that in my country, when we said that the result of the game doesn't exist or we are not following officially, it doesn't count, that we have relaxed a lot the whole situation, and the kids, they got used, because the mini handball game for them on the end of the week is not a competition. It's just additional, let's say, training session or additional training activity they admire. So what we are doing in order to relax this kind of competitivity between the kids concerning the result, on the end of every single league, of every single tournament, we announce them all as winners. Imagine if we just make it opposite, that we are really focusing on the result, on their first step of the development. And we didn't even teach them how to do the basic handball skills. So you will probably have a tournament. You will have probably the 10 teams. And after this tournament that you will organize with a great passion in order to promote out the sport, when they come back home, who will be satisfied? Only the team who won. So you probably have the 100 of kids and only the winning team will be happy. But does it mean that all 10 team members will be happy after this tournament? No, probably only 5 or 6 of them who played, because the coach, in order to win this tournament, he was not able to play with the full team. So we are organizing such an event for the 100 kids in order to promote our sport and popularize our sport and to keep them for a long time in our sport. And then we will just have 6 of them satisfied. So what is very important, that within these first steps in mini handball level, we are making a huge base, wide base for the further development of our sport. So we are not counting the winners in this stage. They have to be winners in the senior stage, and unfortunately it's not possible to gain both.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's say one more, I think. Well, somebody asked, what is the maximum number of students you would involve in the kinds of activities you've shown?
Okay, this was just a demonstration. Of course, you know, when I was making those kind of drills, when they were shooting on the goal, if we have to keep the high level of activity, you have to make different spots or organizational level. So in this group, I suppose there shouldn't be more than 6 or 8 players in order to keep their activity. When we are talking about the other games, so what I showed, I don't think that there is, usually we don't have more than 20, 25 players on the training session, but you should be able to prepare yourself, because you always know how many players you will have on your training session, and you have to make the ways of the appropriate organization for the number of players that you are expecting to have.
Okay, somebody asked, what about when do you change the size of the ball? Is there how do you pay attention to this?
Yeah, what is very important to know when I spoke about these different palm dimensions, unfortunately you can't find 2 kids of the same calendar age who has the same palm dimension. So it's not easy to find the best size of the ball which fits to all the kids. That's why we solved a little bit this problem with those soft balls that I have just mentioned and showed, because every single kid can grip and can hold this ball. From the other side, nowadays we have those balls that can bounce as well. In the past, it was not possible. So we can use those balls also for all other activities. What is also additional benefit for this ball is that when we start playing with them, now every single kid wants to try to be a goalkeeper. They're not afraid anymore. So this is what I recommend to use in this mini handball level. Usually, you are the one who should just evaluate is the ball 0 appropriate for your kids, and when they should just make further step to get the bigger size of the ball, and you should evaluate it through the technique of holding the ball. Can they grip the ball and lift it up, and can they keep the ball properly? So usually in my country, we are playing mini handball from 5 to 10 years, and we are usually using the ball size 0. And when they are approaching to the age of 10, 11, we just skip to the size number 1.
Okay, I think we're about out of time, so let's wrap up there. Sorry to all the people that we didn't get to your questions. There's so many great questions today, but we do have limited time. So Milan, do you have any final words?
Okay, my final word is, I don't know, was I enough inspiring for you or not? And I'm sure that you are very well aware that inspiration is the great driving force, yeah? And I'm sure that at least once you have been inspired by a movie, by a great personalities, or some at most achievements, yeah? Now it's your turn to inspire the others, to inspire the kids, to inspire parents, and probably the school directors. and in order that all of them join us. I'm sure that playing handball may be very powerful tool for it. I wish you all the best and hope to see you soon somewhere.
Thank you so much, Milan. We have a lot of comments with people thanking you and that they really enjoyed this lecture. So everybody, we are back again this Friday at 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time with the next lecture, and that is Winning the Ball in Defense, presented by Dr. Nabil Taha Al-Shihab. So we will see you on Friday again, and thank you so much for joining us today. Goodbye, everybody.